I'm super excited. I just had what feels like the biggest breakthrough of my life. I just launched my first software startup. This is a music composition tool for electronic music producers. I'll show you where you can go and play with it here in a minute, but today I want to walk you through exactly how I researched, launched, and built this tool. I built this in just a few hours using basic AI tools, and I've never seen another YouTube video accomplish anything close to this. I believe it has just recently become possible for two reasons. One, I think the AI models have recently crossed a significant threshold, and two, deep simplicity. I'll show you how that changes everything. I shut down my successful marketing agency to go all in on AI, and my agency served software companies exclusively, from unicorn startups all the way to the most successful SaaS company in the world, and I always dreamed of creating my own startup. Well, that day is here, and after how easy this was, I can clearly envision building a whole portfolio of startups. I'm stoked to share all of this with you. After watching this video, I think it's going to be pretty hard to argue that the age of the one-person startup empire isn't officially here. So here's the gist of what we're going to get into today. We're going to start by using NotebookLM, specifically its killer Discover feature, to look into the particular pain points of your customer. There's some specific prompts I want to show you here to get this to work really well. Then we're going to use NotebookLM to look into the competitors in your space before doing a smart analysis to look for the gaps where the competitors are really not meeting the demands of these customers. Pay special attention to that step because it can really make or break your startup. Then we're going to pass that information into a couple well-known AI tools to build out the software, but we need to do this in a very specific way to get it online quickly and professionally. I made huge mistakes here at first. Finally, we're going to build out the marketing website and marketing content, exploring a couple other optional AI tools, including one that nobody's talking about. But first, I want to be clear that I'm not sponsored by any of the tools I'm going to be showing you today. Currently, this channel is 100% supported by the Patreon community. If you get something out of this video, please consider joining. There's a link in the description with all of the details. All of the prompts I'm going to be going through, all of the instructions, and a ton more resources are available in the ebook that accompanies this video. I make an ebook like this for every single video that I create, and they're all instantly available to anybody who joins my Patreon. Again, check out that link in the description. So the first phase of this entire process is the research phase, and the first step there is the discovery. And this is the prompt we're going to use for that. So I'm going to copy this onto my clipboard. Then I'm going to NotebookLM. This is just notebooklm.google.com. This is a free tool. Then I'm going to fire up a new notebook. I always get really excited when I fire up a new notebook because I know there's kind of endless opportunities here. We're going to focus on this Discover Sources feature. Click into there. And I'm just going to paste that prompt in. It says, search Reddit to find user pain points for electronic music producers. These are my potential customers who are struggling with the following different pain points, and these are some of the things that the tool I'm creating helps with. So I'm going to submit that. I'm focusing it on Reddit in particular because Reddit is a great place to find the users speaking in their own voice. It's not a blog post about what somebody thinks about something else. These are actual people venting their frustrations, telling you exactly what their pain points are. We can use their exact language in our marketing copy and the way that we design our product to really make sure we are getting the best market research out there available. And this has pulled in exactly what I'm looking for. How do people just sit down and make music? Here in this music theory. This one is in electronic music production there. Writer's block for DJs. Perfect. So I am going to double check. This one does not look like it's Reddit, so I'm going to delete that one. I don't think that one is Reddit either. I want these to be specifically just Reddit posts. So you might need to do this a couple times to get exactly what you're looking for, to get enough information in there. And I'm going to add the label here, user. I'm going to repeat that with all of these. And that's not quite enough. So I'm just going to repeat that. Same exact prompt, but I'm going to focus it in a little bit more on some of the pain points that are most relevant to the tool that I'm building. Awesome. That's much better. These are all from Reddit and all right in line with this tool. The next step is competitor research. So what I want to do is go out and find all of the competitors in this space, this narrow niche of MIDI-based generative music tools. So I'm grabbing this prompt and I'm going to dump this into Perplexity. Perplexity.ai is still a killer tool when it comes to searching anything on the internet. You can do this type of thing inside of NotebookLM using the Discover feature, but I found Perplexity is a lot quicker way to just get these specific competitors together quickly. This is great, but what we need are the raw URLs to the home pages of these competitors. So I'm going to nudge Perplexity in that direction. Awesome. And now we can copy those right here back into NotebookLM. I'm going to this website here, and we can now paste in a bunch of URLs all at one time, which is awesome. I'm going to label all of these comp for competitors, and this is going to be very beneficial down the road when we want to just turn on all of our competitor sources and do analysis on those, vice versa with the users. A lot of benefit to doing this. It's really worth taking just a second here to get organized. You might hear a lot about context engineering, and this is basically context engineering in a very baby form, taking an extra step to make sure that all of our information, all of our knowledge is organized properly. Now, ideally, what I want to know from these competitors are which ones have the majority of the market share, because in any different category, there's going to be just a couple that are the leaders. And this is kind of hard to figure out, especially if you're a little new. I know this space fairly well, but I still am not exactly sure which of these are the leaders versus just the ones I've happened to hear about. One great way to figure this out is by finding which ones are most reviewed inside of Reddit. So we're going to use this prompt to do just that. Inside of Perplexity, which of these are the most discussed on Reddit? Are there any that have very little or no discussions based on Reddit? And I'm going to add this here. Are there any others in this category that get lots of mentions on Reddit? Just to make sure we're not missing any. Let's run that. Okay, so this is giving us a good feel for which of these are getting the most discussion on Reddit, which is a great indicator that these are the market leaders and the ones we need to focus on in our research. It's uncovered a couple others that are getting a lot of mention as well. So now back in NotebookLM, I'm going to add some more sources, discover sources, and I'm going to say, please return any and all Reddit reviews of Output Arcade. And I'm going to repeat that prompt for the 3 or so major competitors. This looks good, but there's one here that is not from Reddit, so I'm going to deselect that, import those 9. I've never actually noticed this, but at the bottom here, there's the source limit bar here that tells me I'm at 39 out of 300 sources, and the free plan I think caps out at 50, but that should be more than enough to create a really awesome resource library for your startup tool. Now I'm labeling all of these review. All right, so that completes the discovery step of our research phase, and now we can move on to analysis with this amazing library of market research. The first thing that we want to do here is create a summary of the pain points that the users are experiencing. So I'm grabbing this prompt, I'm dropping that in, and I'm turning off all of the sources except for just the user sources. We want to focus this just on what the users are saying about those specific pain points. I'm running that. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to save it as a note, and then I'm going to convert this into a source. And next, this is the all-important prompt that I talked about at the beginning of this video, where we are going to do a gap analysis and compare the pain points that those users are talking about to where specifically these products are failing them. So I'm copying that in. And for this, I'm just going to highlight the user summary and all of the different reviews of the software. So what pain points specifically are these users not getting from the market leaders out there? And let me tell you, that prompt right there is worth gold. Don't skip that step, because it's telling you exactly what kind of software to build and exactly how to talk about it in the voice of the customer. How are they describing these problems? That is inherently very, very difficult for a marketer or a founder to do. Awesome. Look at this. The number one thing here, struggling with the melody and chord gap. This is the key part of that prompt that I don't want you to miss. I don't think I called this out, but the last sentence of this prompt is: the goal is to find the most glaring gaps in the market. And now we for sure want to save that as a note. It's very important in NotebookLM to save any good responses as a note, because you can't go back and find your chat history in NotebookLM like you can the other models. You've got to save those. I'm going to convert this into a source as well, which means it just shows up over here. All right, and just like that, we are done with the research phase, and we're ready to start planning our software. And the next step that most people would jump into is defining this MVP, this minimum viable product, which in my mind is a whole suite of features. It's many different features. And I think that one of the big problems when we're coding with AI is trying to do too much at once. Again, getting back to that idea of simplicity that I talked about earlier. What I've found to be a lot more effective is to figure out what is the core feature? What is that one thing that this thing really needs to do right out of the gate that we can then build around? So next I'm dropping in this prompt. I'm building a software product to address these pain points. What are some simple yet critical pain points I should tackle first? I'm looking for a list of potential core features I can choose from to start this project. So we're not just looking for one, but have it iterate on a few ideas. And we've got that running in here, and it is so awesome. Look at this. The very first thing is the Smart Chord Progression Iteration tool. That is exactly what my software does, and it hit upon this being the biggest gap in the market. So from here, we're ready to start building. And for that, the key tool that we're going to have to use here is the Anthropic Claude Sonnet 4.5. This was the major breakthrough that I spoke about at the beginning of this video. This is the major threshold. Once I started using this model, everything that I started coding up just started to work so much better. I have not been able to repeat these results with any other tools. I know there's a lot of Gemini fans that watch this channel, and unfortunately, this is the only non-negotiable for creating stuff that actually works, in my opinion. I've been using Cursor and having a lot of luck with it. There's a few bells and whistles in there that make coding a lot easier. However, you can use VS Code. Visual Studio Code will get the job done as well, as long as you're using Claude Code inside of VS Code. VS Code's a free software that you don't have to pay for, like Cursor. The other critical piece that allowed me to get this software online super quickly was this template. I built this template not long ago, and I modeled it after the tech stack that Peter Levels has recommended over and over again. He recommends keeping it very simple, getting back to that theme of simplicity, using PHP, which is a technology that's been around since 1995, along with SQLite, which is a very simple database. So with the addition of Sonnet 4.5 plus that tech stack is really what allowed me to begin moving very quickly. And I built this template, which you can grab. It's $97, and it takes care of all of the boring stuff here: the user login or authentication, Stripe payments, feature gating. So inside of there, you have a free pro and enterprise plan. There's a link in the description to a demo. You can log in and play around with this and see how it works. You can build this yourself, and I'll give you some notes on how I built this at the end of the video. But again, it's available there for $97. And frankly, it costs over $97 in Claude tokens to build. So you might want to save some time and just grab this. Again, there's a link in the description to this page. And when you download it, you're going to get a zip file that looks like this. So we're going to unpack that zip file. We're going to rename that music production tool. And again, you can use this template over and over and over again. You can create 1,000 startups with this one template just by, unzipping it and then renaming the file of whatever has been unzipped. But here inside of Cursor, I'm going to open that folder that we just created. And there we have a beautiful starting place where we can just get right to work on our core functionality without building all those things that every single SaaS product needs, that every startup needs. Got a nice set of files here to get going. You can see I've got Sonnet 4.5 loaded up here. And what I'm going to do, this is one of the things that I like about Cursor a little more than just doing this in VS Code, is it's got these different modes here. So I'm going to flip into planning mode. Here's the prompt, copying this right into Cursor. It says I'd like to use this code base, referring to the folder that we're in, as a template for a new SaaS tool for electronic music producers. This will be a MIDI-based generative music tool. The first feature I'd like to build is the ability for the user to create a new item, and inside that item, they have the ability to generate MIDI files for random chord progressions like the one attached. So I'm attaching a file as an example of what it needs to create. Can you craft a plan here? And again, we're in planning mode, so it's not going to create any code yet. It's just going to start getting familiar with all of these files and with our plan of attack. And one quick hack here to point Cursor to what you're talking about. I don't think it's possible to actually upload a file right there, but what you can do is point to where it is on your computer. So you hover over it, you right click, option, copy path name right down here. and you paste that right in, and it'll know where to find that file that you're talking about. And we'll let it run. This is gonna take a second. And now we're getting into it. We're really building this software. So here's what you can expect. You're gonna have the AI asking you clarifying questions so that you can stay in sync, which is very helpful. You're gonna need to test after each major change, and then you're gonna need to push it to GitHub when you've got something working, when it's stable, and I'm gonna show you that here in a second. So Cursor has returned this. It explored all the files, understands the code base, and it's asking these clarifying questions. What controls should the user have over the chord progression generation? Should the MIDI files be stored permanently on the server? And those were all pretty easy to answer. It gave us multiple choices, so we could just say, you know, the answer to one is A, 2A, and so on and so forth. It's pulling together its plan of attack. And now we can click build, and that switches it into agent mode. So it's gonna start knocking these things off of its to-do list. Okay, so that thing ran for a good 10 minutes. You might be asking yourself, hey, how much is this gonna cost me in Claude Code tokens? I can tell you that once you start with that template, what I built really only cost me about 20 bucks to build. All told, with everything I'm going to show you. So it's not free, but you know, compared to normal software expenses of hiring programmers or the time it would take you to do this yourself, it's a tiny fraction of the cost. So we've got this now. It's made all these different changes here. I'm going to click keep all so it implements all of those changes. And now we're going to just test it here on our computer before we put it up live on the internet. Just drop it in here. Hey, can we test this locally, meaning on the computer? Awesome. And there it is. It has updated the homepage copy as well. We didn't even ask it to do that. That might be a step you want to fine tune exactly what it's saying here based on your user pain points that you got from NotebookLM. So having that conversation back and forth, copying and pasting things from NotebookLM into Cursor. And the Google login's not going to work right away. There's a couple steps you need to jump through to get that connected that Cursor can walk you through very easily, or in that SaaS template guide shows you exactly click by click how to get that going both locally and in the cloud. All right, so now when we log in, we can create a new project 1. Opening that up, we can generate our chords, download those chords. I even added a way to generate a bass line with one prompt, just saying, hey, I'd like to add a bass line. I described how that's supposed to work, and we can generate that bass line. Now, once it's been tested, we need to get it out to the world. So I'm just gonna say, great, let's push this to GitHub. You are gonna need to get a GitHub account. Those are completely free. I'm clicking this little new button. I'm giving this a name, Chord Forge, creating that repository, or repo as it's called. Copying that URL right here. We're gonna give that to Cursor. It's getting it ready to be backed up there to GitHub. And then it's gonna give you some options. And the easiest here by far is to get that URL like I just showed you. There are some ways to try to do that automatically, but that has never worked for me, and I've spent many hours doing it. So just copy and paste that in, and success. It is now in GitHub. We can look here and see that it's all there. There's all of our files in GitHub. And now to get this live on the internet, I use a tool called Railway. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these, but I found this to be the most effective and easiest way to get these tools up and running. And you can do a lot for free here. But it's connected to my GitHub, so this is very easy. Once we have it in GitHub, we click here, we wait for it, give it a second. That new repository will show up. There it is, Chord Forge, and it is now building it on its server there, and we're about to deploy this for the world to see. And there it is. It took a couple minutes, but now it has been deployed. We want to jump in here into the settings, networking. And here's where you can connect it to a custom domain. If you have a domain for your startup, you can connect it to GoDaddy right in here. There's a couple hoops you got to jump through for that. But just for the sake of speed, I'm going to do this generic domain here. So there, Railway has generated that. We can fire this up and see it online. So there it is, all the way from research to getting a SaaS product online. So the example we did today was called Chord Forge. My example, the one that I have running that you can go mess around with, is called Mess-O MIDI. So it's kind of a play on that Cup O noodles, if you remember that from back in the day, eating those noodles. So this is at messomidi.com. You can log in. It's all free right now. It's not connected to Stripe, so you can log in and play around with this. Create a new project, calling it My Sweet Jam. We'll open that up. We'll generate some chords here. We'll generate a bass line. I'm downloading these files, and I use a tool called Ableton Live to compose music, and that's where we're gonna pull these files in. If you have access to GarageBand, you can pull these files into GarageBand and play around. But here is My Sweet Jam chords, the chords we just created, and here's the bass line we just created. And I'm gonna manipulate these around a little bit. And here's what this sounds like. Get our bass line going a little. Here comes our chords. Some cool, weird chords. And then I added a beat here, and so this is something that I've been dreaming of creating. So you can just get in here and then start tweaking things and playing around in here. If you're not a musician, don't worry about it, but if you are, give it a shot. Let me know what you think. But we're not done here because we need to market this thing. We need to get this thing out to the world. We're going to need a blog where we can put blog articles, news updates, different places we can point people to get the word out about this new project, Mess-O-MIDI. So what I'm going to do is start a new folder here, and I'm going to call this just blog. Then again, inside Cursor, I'm going to open that empty folder, completely blank here, and I'm just going to grab this prompt, copy that in. This says I need to spin up a simple blog for my Mess of MIDI project. It will live on blog.messomidi.com. It should match the tech stack, PHP, MySQL, design, nav, and core features of the project here. And I use that little trick to give it the link, find that path name to this. Again, that's just right-clicking and then holding that option button down, and you can find the path name to copy in. It should be secure, fully readable from an SEO standpoint, and it should allow for YouTube video embeds. So this ran for another 10 minutes and created this blog, and it's a completely separate code base to keep it separated from our application, because these are two different things. One's a blog, one's an application. We don't want that all living in one place, getting confusing. We're going to link it together, just on the websites themselves. But this turned out amazing. And here's what that looks like. Very simple. The design is exactly what I wanted. It really matches the branding of the other application. When you log in, you can see that it's got, the ability to embed videos. It picked this hilarious video, Never Gonna Give You Up, as its example. And it's already got links to these different things. It has its full admin panel, so you can log in. This was all basically one prompt. Once I log in, we can create a new post. And it uses Markdown, which is really cool. Instead of having a bunch of complicated, ways to format things, this is just how you do it, which is exactly how oftentimes AI tools will generate stuff. And it even gave me this quick Markdown reference down here. Unbelievable. So this is exactly what I was looking for. I pushed that up the same exact way. I just created a separate GitHub repository for it. I pushed it to GitHub, pushed that to Railway, but then I connected it to this blog.messomidi.com. That is a subfolder where that lives, which is a traditional way to do this kind of thing. I don't know if you can see it, but I feel like this little logo came out pretty well. I want to show you how I built that. I just used Midjourney for that. That's midjourney.com, and the prompt I used was a emoji of a noodle in the style of an apple color emoji, completely white background. So that's the guy I landed on with a lot of trial and error in Midjourney. I was able to download that and pull it into Canva so I could remove the background. It needs to be completely no background, transparent background. So by pulling that into Canva, downloading it as a PNG with transparent background, and I just communicated back and forth with Cursor about what it needed exactly to fit into the design perfectly without having it to rebuild the layout in any way, shape, or form. It said it needed a 64 by 64 piece and a 32 by 32 piece. So you can't go down that small, unfortunately, in Canva. You can't go down to 32 by 32, but Claude Code can actually do that for you. Can take an image and create a very small image that's used up in the bookmark, and the fave icon is what it's called there. So That was a pretty cool, quick and dirty way to come up with a logo, because you're going to need that if you're going to start building out tons of different startups. And again, if one catches fire, I'll probably redo this, but for now, kind of like this little guy. The other thing I want to show you back in a NotebookLM is we can use this now to start getting ideas for our different blog posts. So grabbing this prompt, dropping that right in here, saying, please generate a content marketing campaign that adheres directly to the gap analysis and user pain points here. So this is generating the plan, and then from there, it's fairly easy to generate blog posts. I would definitely use Claude for that. It's the best writer out there. I would iterate with it. I wouldn't just trust Claude doing it alone. You might want to pull in some research from Perplexity, cite, real sources. But we've got the plan here, again, adhering directly to what these folks are saying. You might want to even prompt it to return, exact quotes from those different Reddit posts that you can use to pepper in to make sure it's really calling out to your audience. This is a really cool idea, a beyond the 4-chord loop. So let's see if we can't create a cool little infographic here. I'm saying, can you flesh out content for an infographic based on one of the ideas it's given me here? This is cool. I'm copying all of this into a tool I don't hear enough people talking about, napkin.ai. This is killer for infographics. I'm going to click on blank napkin here, and I'm going to paste everything in. I'm going to copy that title to the top. I'm going to delete that little intro, and I'm going to start then just clicking on these, and it starts creating the little graphics here. There's a lot you can do with this tool. Yeah, that's cool. Look at this. So now we're going to download this. We're going to export this document as a PDF, light mode, single continuous page. And now we have a really cool infographic we can use to start promoting our new SaaS product. And all this stuff is in the cheat sheet, every single prompt that we've gone through and a ton more. We've only reached about page 4 or 5 on the cheat sheet. There's over 20 pages in here of all sorts of different things that can help you with building and launching your startup. Additionally, inside of Patreon, I've got a call every month. If you have questions about this, you can join up with this group and we can hash through any problems that you're having. This is the Software Builders Call. It happens every second Tuesday of the month, so check that out. When you join that, you also get access to the Power Users, which is a non-technical but a great way to use AI tools for efficiency. That's a call that happens every single month. And then, of course, you get access to all of the ebooks here. I've also got a link to my SaaS template in the description, so check that out. You can click this button here and play around with it a little bit, get a feel for what it does. If you want to build this yourself, it's going to cost you around $100 in tokens with Claude, but the way you would do it is just find a website that you like the layout of and pull that into Cursor and ask, hey, can we please create wireframes of this, or can we create a basic web page using PHP and MySQL and get the layout how you want it. And then you would work through adding in the Google authentication. That's the Google login. And then the third step would be the Stripe integration. So that's the 3 steps if you wanted to build this out yourself. But again, mine's there available for sale if you want to save yourself the trouble. I hope you enjoyed this. One thing I didn't go too deep on is exactly how to build automations with this tech stack. And there's a video I've created all about that right here. Check that video out. That's the next step. I'll see you over there.
Make your dreams come true.